This book is what I started with in terms of this sort of series of books here. Found Object. It was my mother's college textbook. It actually has the address of the house that I grew up in, the first house in Detroit. It's an introduction of St. Thomas Aquinas, and I believe I got the book, I probably saw it on her bookshelf and took it. She since has moved and downsized her whole library, so I'm glad I grabbed it. But again, these themes are somewhat circular for me. Ideas come back and they kind of revive themselves sort of occasionally, haphazardly, coincidentally, and then I kind of look back to ideas that I've worked with in the past. I had read this book years ago, and as you can see, I've got all the pages tagged. It gives me great ideas for painting titles, a lot of Latin, a lot of aesthetics. This was about the aesthetics of Thomas Aquinas, so that's why I was drawn to that. This textbook, which I then have repurposed, and the title of this piece is called Holy Book. Of course, St. Thomas Aquinas wrote about theology, aesthetics, morality back in the 14th century, and is a canonized saint. The three circles on the front are ellipses, is an ellipsis. As you flip through the book, I think I was looking at the paper, and I love the fact that you get this lovely little surprise coming through the book. The cutouts, and then these inclusions, the different color inclusions coming through. So it's a bit of a peekaboo book. It's a bit of, I use it, taking paper. But as you flip through the book, you get these different combinations of colors, composition, incorporating what, I love the fact that this has been touched by someone else in the past. So that basically is the first book that I'm sharing here. This book, which is by this author entitled Hazel, I call it the Red Book because of the color. I was on a trip and I was working on small works on paper, and I was running out of paper. I was doing watercolors. So I went they have a shelf where you take one, it's sort of a lending library, take one, leave one book. So this book was there, and I took it I wanted to use the paper. So to basically use for painting. I picked it based on the quality of the paper. I was only going to use it for painting on the blank pages. But as I started doing a series, and they're all dated sequentially based on the dates that they were created, just a whole series. And they go through thematically based on colors more than anything else. They're a series based on working with this minimal color palette. As you can see, just working very quickly. And then at the end of these series of days, here's orange. These forms, what I call stacks, are based on paintings that I've done, and also I started moving into actually physically making sculptures with spheres, physical round spheres that I then paint and stack. And I also call them totems, like totem poles, rock totems, which are cairns for marking trails. These are the references that I think of, but they were just quick ideas of like painting in thinking about sculpture. And then when I was finished, I thought, if I look at this, it's about 10 days I've did this. I just put them back together in order. That's now how I see this, as a document of this period and this thought process and this exploration, and the sort of reinterpretation of a book and repurposing its contents for my purposes. This book is another cutout book, as we'll call it. It's in Greek. It's a translation of Joseph Conrad's Smile of Fortune. It's a short story. I just started cutting out and adding these inclusions of color again in here. Because I love the fact about with foreign language, it doesn't matter how much you may know French or may know, you're never going to, it's also this sort of mysterious of what is really being said here. So to me, it's another abstract element, and it's also, it's just beautifully typeset. And at the end, there's actually pictures, so it kind of becomes like a peekaboo, sort of a peep show kind of book. This was also sort of a weaving piece that using the pages from the Aquinas book. So this is the book project in terms of how all these elements speak to each other, the materials and the books and the language and the concept, but really working through a lot of formal elements of composition, painting, color, exploration for other works, being sculpture, painting primarily, and then works on paper.